Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Thursday. It's July 21st. This will be our chart lesson for the day, and this is going to wrap it up for the week. No chart lessons on Fridays, so we'll wrap our week up, and we'll be back and do it again on Monday. Um, Here's a look at the daily chart. We're still pushing higher here. Another looked like we were going to sell off today, and we rallied fairly strongly in the afternoon. We still closed off the highs. My guess is we're going to test this. We're going to test this measured move here. It's looking that way. I mean, we could turn down tomorrow, but at this point, this would be my target until I see something that shows me different. Um, so here we go. I mean, we're getting some more follow through buying. The market struggles to go higher, but somehow it's pushing higher each day, and that's a good thing. So anyway, let's. It's not wasn't an easy day. It was, even though we had a nice rally in that, we were kind of down early. Looked like we were going to have a downtrend, and then we just reversed and had a rally to the upside. And there was still some mixed trading in that upward trend, and so it wasn't an easy day. There were a few easy trades in there for the most part. It was some difficult trading today. So if you struggled with the day, don't beat yourself up over it. It wasn't an easy day. But let's flip over there to the intraday chart, the 2,000 tick chart, and we'll look at the trades and we'll wrap this week up. Okay, here it is, and you can see we had this downward looking sloping channel. Looks like we overshot it. You can kind of look back and maybe you could say, hey, maybe this was more of a range type day. Maybe something like so. And then if we got a measured move, you can see we pretty much went a perfect measured move. So in the end, maybe this was just a range and we broke lower, reversed, and headed out of there. You still can't argue that this blue, grayish blue, light blue trend channel is not valid, because prices were reacting off the lines and the midline. And sometimes you'll get these kind of conflicting type patterns because maybe some people saw it the way I did and some people saw it as a range day. Um, it started out looking like it was going to be a range day, but from here on, we're really trending down. Of course, there's some sideways and a couple of legs up here, and so which one is right? I think they're both right. So however you saw it, it doesn't really matter. I honestly played it with this range and then just found this trend and stayed with it. And it was a difficult trend itself because we're not getting to the highs really until here, and we're not coming back to the trend line. So you had to play the shorter term stuff in there. There just was no other way around it, and that makes it a little more difficult. So because until you get to this upper side, which it doesn't look like we're going to get there, it looks like we're coming up short. Notice how we don't go back to the trend line, and we keep working higher until we finally get to that high side, work back to the trend line, get a break, and then we rallied to a new high. And that was really a lot of mixed trading in there, and heading to that new high, and we rallied some more into the close there. So we actually I'll take that back. We did sell off a little bit at the close. We didn't close on the high, but that looks like we made the new high for this channel, and we made the measured move for the range, which is what this blue line from here to this dash blue line is just the same distance as from here to here on the range. And so again, which one is right? I think they both are. So if you saw it the other way, nothing wrong with that. After the fact, I can't argue with it. So this morning I really didn't put too much stock into the sideways stuff because we were making lower lows here each time. So there's no doubt this was valid too. So it was just a choice how you saw it and what looked the best to you. And your chart might have looked a little different, and you might have got a better range, or you might have got a better channel. So it doesn't really matter. But I don't want to spend much more time on that. I just wanted to show it to you. I played the channel, so I'm going to leave it at that, and we'll go from there. And I'm going to remove the range since I played the channels, and we're going to proceed in that direction. So, but if you saw the range again, it's not wrong. So sometimes you have days like that. That would have actually helped you maybe with these bounces here. And even without the range, you still have to assume prices are coming back and testing these previous highs that when we went past it didn't get tested. So that's probably what we did. Once we tested that a few times, that high there and it held, then of course prices went higher, and that's what prices do. They test support and resistance, and then if it gives, the trend continues, and if it doesn't give, prices reverse. And so that's really the basics of what we do. So anyway, let's get this off and let's zoom in and go through the trade. And 7 o'clock came right in here, so we're kind of bouncing up and down right here. I think it came right as we went into this high. There is a failure there, but it's above the EMA. You don't really want to take that. But you drop down here, and really you got a triple test by this time, and it's a huge signal bar. That signal bar's got like 33 ticks in it. But I wouldn't be, if you're not afraid of 33 ticks, I like that setup, and you can clearly see it would have been a quick, easy move, and you'd probably be done for the day. Especially if you got a runner. I mean, that's a $725 move alone. Even if you waited till the first break, it's half that, almost 500. So anyway, nice move there. Comes back and you get a first entry, and then there's a second entry here, but the signal bar is not good enough, so I don't think you can take that. And of course you turn down, and I don't see any chance to really enter this move down, and then you're kind of chopping sideways. And unfortunately, that whole way down, I just don't see a really good chance to enter that trade. It's just not there. We do run up and pull back and go higher here, and I mark that as a green, just because it's a little high to be a high or low, but it's somewhat of a trap. It broke lower there and failed instantly and turned and went out the other side. I wouldn't wait for this bar to end to go long, but I might take that on that engulfing bar just because it's probably going to trap people, and we're probably going to push higher. And of course we come back here, and you might say, hey, there was a failure here, but that looks just a little too congested for me. When we didn't take on off here and keep going higher, that just looks a little too congested. And you can see it failed out and then came back again. Gives you a high or low, but that's just a first entry. It's not a failure or anything. And then of course we do make a new high after we actually get a close outside and 2 legs to a new high, and then we make 2 legs down. You can clearly see the 2 legs down, and there's a little 2-legged correction in the middle. So it's another little 2-legged correction, and you look for a measured move, and you can see we went a little further than that before we kind of turned down there. But we're just working sideways here, and notice the new low, and you try to go lower once, twice, and there's also a second entry long. But the big thing is we've tested this support several times, and it's just a chance to get long off the lows on a higher low, really. And it is a second entry, although we're not necessarily looking for second entries. Then it does the same thing again. It comes back, it's 2 legs back, and you get another chance to ride it back to the high. I didn't mark this short. There is a triple test there. And the reason being, you wouldn't necessarily know for sure this channel is here. But originally, I had this drawn right here. And it may still be right there. And so, if you're looking at a downward kind of channel here, then you would expect prices to be going higher, not lower. And we traded up into this channel too, and we've already failed out the bottom once. So I was a little leery of that short, but it's another one you could argue to be green. If you took that, I wouldn't necessarily say that was a horrible trade. It's a little aggressive. Notice we're going a little sideways. We're mostly in the upper half here, but there's room back to that midline. So maybe you take that trade. And we just kind of shoot up, and then we're sideways, and there's just not a lot of good entries here. I don't see any way to really, There's a lower high here, but that's moved a little far, so you'd say, hey, let's wait on the reversal, see if we get a failed second entry long, and we don't get it. Prices just drop. And then we, even here, this, I marked this one, but notice we get a first entry, second entry, and then we try to go higher again, and you can clearly see we're working down, and you're expecting a new low, and you're expecting prices to maybe go here. Maybe you take that trade. I thought I marked that. I meant to mark that in green. Maybe you take that trade. I don't know. I mean, the expectation here, reading the charts, we're going lower, but it's a little congested. And, you know, but there's a trap there. If we break lower, maybe we go lower, but it could bounce again. So I'm just not crazy about it. We do drop on down, make a new low, and then it looks like we're going to rally, but we're not down to the lows yet. And so we do head back down there. And it looks like we get a little overshoot. Maybe you could adjust this channel a little bit and could draw it a little different. And maybe it's not an overshoot. I'm not sure, but you can clearly see the midlines are fitting well there. So I think the channel's valid, and I think it's there, and that's the way I played it. So we already talked about that. But we did make this high, and you try to go higher once, twice. So if we break lower there, you got a failure. I like that one. It's kind of similar to this setup here too. Drops on down. Another little hiccup, a couple of hiccups here, but there's just nothing you can trade. There's two sideways. And I think you're a little, you know, you can't really go long. Maybe you go long right here. There is a higher low, but that's a pretty strong sell-off. And I just don't think you should go long yet. And you can see it didn't go far. I mean, you would expect prices maybe to come back here, but there's no break of this yet. There's no overshoot. Of course, you do have the lower side trend channel line down here. So maybe we're going to get a bounce. I mean, there's some reasons to say, hey, maybe you go long there if you want to be aggressive. I don't recommend it, but and you can see we don't go very far. We just kind of chop sideways, and you can see it working off this trend line. That one's tempting right there, but that is definitely congestion, and that midline's been holding in on that channel, and so I don't think I go long there. Same thing here. We're just chopping sideways. There's a higher low right here, but you got to go long right into a little 2-bar matching highs. A lot of resistance there, and you can see it does come back. So I just don't, there's just not much here. I mean, it's just sideways stuff, and we go higher. Here you're looking for prices to go lower. Too congested. You do make a little breakout pullback short, but that's just a first entry. Wait on, see if you get a second entry, and you don't. And I mean, actually here you could say you got a second entry. Notice you made a double bottom, then you get a first entry, and then, but that's an inside bar. Doesn't make an equal high. Comes down here and it bounces off this trend line again, but you don't know that you're going to get back through this one, and you're really expecting a retest of the lows. Maybe, I guess you could say maybe there's an overshoot here, but it's not clear that there is. So I don't think you want to try to go long there. And next thing you know, you're headed up. There's no setups. Congestion. High or low here that maybe you take. But again, I'd wait to see if you get a trap or reversal, and you get that right here. So I like going long right there, but you could argue for this to at least be green maybe. That one's really tempting. The problem is we're not back to the trend line, and we didn't get to the high. So if we're going lower here, there's a chance we get a break of a trend line. But really, in the end, we're not done to the upside. And you might say, hey, there's two legs down here too. I mean, we trade down, we go sideways, and then we trade down again. So there's two measured legs there. So definitely when you got the reversal, you want to take advantage of that trap. And of course, that runs up, and notice we still don't get up there. We come back, and you get the same thing again. Really, the reversal was here. And it doesn't get back to the trend line. We still didn't get up here. It's still a little convoluted, and so I wouldn't take that one. If this would have been a little better signal bar, maybe you take that on a second entry and another little trap there, but it just doesn't end as a very good signal bar. And finally, we get to the highs. So now we're probably going to work back down here, and it's still looking like it may still be really strong. And then suddenly the bottom falls out here. But what I think happened here is we had that range highs, and we were into those range highs. And so if you saw that too, then maybe you pay attention to that at this point, because now we've kind of proven the range maybe was valid. I did mark this short. Notice you've got a little channel. I don't have it on here, but there's a little channel working up here. And you're going to close outside the new high. I think it's more sideways than anything, but at this point you might still argue we're headed lower. And so you're just kind of playing that as a breakout, a break and a new high. You probably argue that there's 1, 2, 3 times to try to go higher there. Plenty of room back to the EMA, so maybe you take that one. And then, of course, you drop all the way down. This one is really tempting, but it's like a third entry or fourth entry because you got a first entry, second entry, third. It's just a third entry long. So here, I think I wait on a higher low, which comes here, and then suddenly you get a second entry short. And we do have an overshoot up here. That's definitely, I would definitely call that an overshoot. So if at the very least, probably, and look, notice how we're kind of testing that breakout area right there, that support that's now acting as resistance. So at the very least, you could probably ride that back to here, even if we're going to go higher. So I marked that one because it is a nice trap, and we'll probably trap people. And in the end, this thing just dropped. You can tell it was a better trap than you would even suspect, because look at it go. And what happens here is all these people who've gotten long all day say, hey, maybe the trend's over, and they all take their profit and start exiting. And you easily get 2 nice legs down. There's another second entry short here right off that key entry point. You can see it right there. And the bottom drops, and you get another second entry. We've been away from the EMA a little while, so these are like doji type bars with no body, so it's getting a little convoluted there. This doesn't necessarily close on its low. Still one you might think about, but I'm not crazy about it. And you can see it just barely makes a new low, and then we're going the other way. And I don't see any way to get long there. There's no real good setup. And then here we go. Here's that setup again. We try to go higher. We push down. We come back. It's a reversal. But we saw this type of pattern several times, so I like it. We run back down. We test these lows. You could argue maybe there's a triple test here. You might even argue one here, but each time it makes a new low, so you're still making higher highs and lower highs and lower lows there. So I'm a little afraid to go long there yet. We drop on down. Now you could definitely argue for a triple test with a higher low, but you don't get a setup bar. You do get a reversal here. Technically you don't, because it doesn't really break lower here, but it does try to come back. But that's just too sideways regardless, even if you'd have broke lower there. And so again, I just don't see. Here's that weak rollover again that gives you a reversal, and so you might have taken that one. I'm not even going to mark it. It's an inside bar, and technically the reversal happened right here because it went 1, 2, but it still looks like that same pattern where it rolls over here, kind of rolls over right here. Where was there? There were a couple of those. And so it's kind of a repeat pattern. So, but I still don't like it. Then we get a close outside. Got a huge bearish bar, but it's just a first entry. Maybe there's a triple test there. I don't think that's good enough right here. Because, I mean, this is starting to look like mixed trading. It's another one you might argue to be at least green, but I'm not crazy about it. And that really took us into 230. And there's just nothing else here. This was just a really not a good trading day. That's the way I would put it. Not a lot of easy to spot setups that are, you know, where you know exactly where prices are going. Even this channel was, I mean, we've seen this a couple of times lately where we're not getting to the highs, but we don't get back to the lows either. So it's like The market just can't decide if it wants to go higher, but it does. It's like most people don't believe it's going to go higher, and then somehow it fights its way back up there. So don't argue with the price action. As much as you want to say, hey, we came up short, we're probably going lower here. A few times we end up getting up there, and then we're going lower, and then we go lower, but we still go higher from there. Once we get that break, it looks like we're probably not going to get a retest, but yet in the end we do. So just don't argue with the price action. It's easy to try to do on a day like this. Again, if you felt like the day was kind of difficult to trade, it's because it really was. So anyway, we had a long chart lesson yesterday, and we're 20 something minutes, 20 over 20 minutes here this morning or this afternoon. So not much else I can say here other than it just was not a, I mean, it's like the rally is fighting the bigger picture, and if you go over to the daily chart, that's exactly what's happening. So the bigger picture is down, and we're fighting that right now. And it's probably just going to be a temporary correction. Who knows? Maybe that's wrong. Maybe we do go higher even further. But I don't think we're done to the downside. I think we're going to see some more sell-off, at least one more capitulation. And then maybe we can rally out here for good. We'll see. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. Hope you have a good week. Hope you have a good day tomorrow. I'll see you Monday. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.